What's up, y'all? Just want to introduce you to a real close friend of mine that I've been with now for 22 years. It's a good one. This is the car that I have affectionately named Old Blue. Yep, I do name cars. This one is far from perfect, but me and her got a history that goes a ways back. She's far from perfect. The paint is fairly low quality on my standards. A little nice ding in the bumper. But let me tell you about this car after I give you a real quick walk around. Got some bubbling and stuff around the windows. Not real bad. Overall, she's super solid, but see this big old chunk knocked out of the roof. That happened before I even got the car finished. I was out busting up concrete on my front porch, and which was about 30 feet from this car, and I whacked the cement, and this big chunk went straight up in the air and over my head, and I think got pretty close to the stratosphere, and then came down right on top of the car before I even finished it. For years, I just had this thing running on Krager's. That's what it had on it when I bought it. The back ones were huge, 15s, real tall. But over the years, I'd been looking for a set of these dog dish hubcaps, factory Buick parts, and a full set of Steelies. You'd be shocked how hard that is to find. But I found 4 pretty good ones. 4 or 5 wheels, I think 5. And I matched this body color and put those on there about a year ago. I really like the look. This is one of those cars that I would love to restore, but likely never will, or not in a long time anyways. It's got hood pins on here, which that was me in my teenage years. I thought they were cool. Now I think they're stupid, but I gotta run them, at least for now, because I took the factory latch assembly off of it. So it is what it is. This is the perfect example of making do with what you have. I'll tell you how I met this car here in a second, and how she came to be looking like she is today, which is, other than the wheels and tires, identical to what it looked like when I finished it back in probably 2002, I think it was. So let's go inside and take a look, and I'll tell you about her. So the interior of this car is virtually stock. I mean, almost nothing is different in here than what the car had when it was brand new. It's got factory headliner with the really nice stitch job, very much in the vice grip garage style, although I did this 20 years ago. These headliners are not very expensive. At some point in time I'll replace it. Now these factory door panels need a little cleaning, but the glue's coming loose there. The battery's disconnected, so the dome lights are off. Got some really nice high-dollar carpet in the back window, not stock. And these seat covers, I really like them, but they're not factory. In the front seat, it's a bench. Let me tell you, these seats are super comfy. This is way more comfortable than the GM bucket seats. It's got the split bench, and I didn't notice this until a number of years ago, but the factory seat covers are underneath of this. See? That's the factory blue vinyl. It would have matched the door panels. So I'm not sure, like you can see it right here, I'm not sure what condition that's in or why these were recovered. I mean, there's no, I mean, it feels perfect. Like, there doesn't feel like there's any splits or anything like that. So I don't know. I've debated pulling these covers off and putting the stocks type back in them, but I've never done it. That's about the only major problem with the seats. Cigarette hole. Funny story about that I'll tell you in a minute. But let's move on up to the front. All right, this is a factory non-air car. Got the little vents in the side. It's a 68, so it has the crank open vent windows, which is that little handle there. It's got the long armrests, which are not reproduced. This car does have a stock AC dash and instrument bezel. The non-AC cars didn't have that duct right there, nor did they have the ones in the pad. But when I crashed this car, that's all I could find back 20-something years ago. But it's got new carpet, and it's been painted. This is its third paint job, and on none of those paint jobs was this thing properly jammed out. So you can see the lighter color blue kind of bleeding through. See, you find a spot. You can see that lighter color blue down there is good. This car is originally a light blue metallic. Then when I bought it, it was this color blue, which was just a slightly darker blue metallic than what it was factory. And then you can see here on the wraparound is this funky blue color here, which is sort of kind of a, I don't know, purplish blue. This car's never been jammed out. 3 paint jobs. It's really kind of rough, but man, do I love this car. So I'll jump in here and I'll tell you a story about it real quick. To me, it's worth telling. To you, maybe not, but everybody's got a car story. All right, so before we go under the hood of this car here to change out the alternator, I gotta warn you, it's bad. It's really bad. As far as build quality, organization, basically pretty much everything. It's not done anywhere near how I would do it today, but we'll go under there and keep in mind, this is the result of an 18-year-old trying to throw a car together on a $6.15 an hour part-time job budget. It was the best I could do, and I didn't really have anybody that I would call a mentor or any prior experience working on a car. This car under the hood especially is essentially a time capsule for me from 20 plus years ago. There's a lot of stuff, pretty much everything I would do different if I was doing it today, but I don't even think I've ever washed underneath the hood of this car since I put it together. It's more or less sat for the last 10, 12 years, something like that. I very rarely drive it, but I'm trying to go about changing that. I've got some new tires on it, and anyways, I need to drive it more often. Really enjoy the car, and it's hard on them to sit. But let's go in here and I'll show you all my sins of 20 plus years ago. Alrighty then. Welcome to the world of 18-year-old me. Look at the dust. Can't see it there. She's been many, many years just kind of setting. Anyways, where should we start? We got a nice busted top cover for the radiator, and I absolutely despise this cheap, fake, hose covering stuff that I got under here. I hate it so bad, but hey, like I said, 18-year-old me thought that was a lot cooler than what's now 28-year-old me. No, 38. I forgot how old I am. Anyways, yeah, look at this. I bought this intake on eBay in 2001. First thing I ever bought on intake on eBay. It's a stock 4-barrel Buick intake. Car originally had a 2-barrel. Oh, another thing. I have no earthly idea why I decided to paint it Chevy engine orange. Painted the intake silver. This motor should be red, Buick red, a dark color. I don't know. I was 18, what can I say? Anyways, and let's continue on the madness. Look at this cute little multitude of hose, adapter, whatever business going on for my vacuum advance. It's an old Edelbrock. It runs a electric fuel pump down there on the fuel rail, which it should not, and it doesn't need this other than for quick primes. I mean, it essentially has no use other than leaving me stranded one time when it burnt the pump up. About the only thing I've added over the years is, well, other than that regulator and electric fuel pump, is this old MSD 6A and a tack driver. Underneath of there, you can see a kind of a competition cam sticker that I had stuck on there. I've got the inner fender delete option, drum brakes on the front. Look at this fancy wiring job. Excuse me. More fancy wiring. You can tell that got too close to the exhaust once. It does have a big old ground strap on it. There's a lot of muscle cars today built by actual shops that neglect that sort of thing. It's got some really high dollar, ugly freaking Excel spark plug wires, along with the, you know, what everybody has to have, electric Excel high-powered coil. What else? That's the guy we're changing in a minute. Got this really nice chrome cap on here. Some really nice rust that I never, you know, took the time to fix when I put this car back together. Horns that I don't think work. What other gnarliness? Oh, look at this really nice throttle cable adapter bracket that I built. That's pretty minty. I could go on forever. Inoperative windshield wipers. But there's another ground strap. On a positive note, this first motor I ever built in my life, and it, other than some clacking going on from low oil pressure and whatnot, it's run like a champ, and I used to just mercilessly beat the crap out of this poor thing. It's a miracle that it's still in one piece, so that speaks to the durability of the Buick 350 engine, which a lot of people don't even know anything about at all. The only thing I've done to the engine itself is it started developing a lifter rattle once, a clatter in the valve train, and I think it was on this side. One of the little metal pressed in seats in the rocker arm, these model years 68 and 9 have aluminum rocker arms, and there's a little metal seat that rides on the valve stem. It was completely missing, and it had just worn down into the, basically the meat of the end of the rocker arm. Aluminum rocker, you know, obviously steel valves, kind of banged it up a little bit. But I changed it out and put another stock rocker back on it. Look at this really cool vacuum plug. Yes, that is a what I believe is I think they use them for sealing off freeze plugs. Bought that at the AutoZone back in the day, back when I used to go to AutoZone. That's just some random bolt capping off that. Anyways, this is pretty much how it's looked for 20 plus years. But knock on wood, every time I start it, it runs, doesn't give me no complaints, other than that stupid electric fuel pump once leaving me stranded. It's performed flawlessly. At some point in time, I want to restore this car, but as long as it runs and drives, it's probably not likely gonna happen. You know, obviously everybody on this channel knows that I already have a problem with too many projects. Well, without further ado, let's jump into this. Hopefully y'all don't crucify me too much in the comments, but it's okay. All right, so as always, first thing you do when you're doing something big electrical is disconnect the battery. I already got that done. And my wife's outside running the vacuum right in front of the door, so hopefully you can hear me. Or actually a leaf blower. I did actually replace this alternator, now that I think about it, back about probably 2004 or 5. That's when I put this one wire unit on it. I do a lot of these conversions on cars. Some people hate them, but especially on something with a lot of amperage load, I just like them. Just my thing. There's nothing wrong with them, and they do provide a real consistent charge, like especially when you've got all your stuff turned on, like this car, electric fuel pump, electric fan, sitting in traffic when it's 100 degrees and you got the lights on at night. You better have a cooling system that's capable of keeping up. I like my adapter thing. I got a looks like tube steel, lock washer, regular washer, another lock washer, another piece of poorly cut, not square steel. Who knows where its origins are. I'm gonna have to not drop them all. It's gonna be fun. Okay, we'll take these off. I'm kind of embarrassed, honestly, to show that this car is under the hood, but I just have not taken the time or whatever to mess with it. If every time you jump in it, it goes, it's hard for me to justify taking it apart. You may or may not think that's a good excuse, but it's the one I got. Okay, I'm not sure if this is a metric. Nope. Okay, timeout. So 7/16. This is when I got this one. This is when the one-wire alternators were just kind of coming out, as far as, you know, regular use in hot rods. So it was one you had to flash the engine to like 1,000 or 1,200 RPM to get her to start charging. Okay, let's pop in the new one. All right, same story. Except this is a 10mm. Let's see, it should go about here. That's another thing that gets my goat. Metric fasteners and stuff on classic cars. You'd be surprised what kind of high-end car parts you buy, like for popular muscle cars that come with metric hardware. It's just weird. Annoys me. Okay, better get that away from that case. Okay, feels tight. Okay. Now we will, let's see, wiggle it back around. Okay, it's upside down. Got it. Okay, let me get my combo. Okay, my long bolt. Got my poorly cut, poorly fit, whatever that is. My washer stack. God, this is embarrassing. Oh, that one just exploded. Okay. Timeout. Again. Well, I was thinking, I think I was actually 17 when I put this thing together. Looks like it too. Okay, let's get our orientation right here. It's kind of a strange method of mounting the alternator. It's upside down and way down low on the engine. It's probably because this is an upper alternator bracket. Now that I look at it, it would originally go on here. Okay. Pop the belt on. Get it in the groove. Then pop the belt on. Get my bolt started in the hole. Wrong socket. Right socket. Okay. Get some pressure on that belt. Put some horsepower to it. You got to be careful with these aluminum castings, especially the knockoff, cheap Asian, whatever. Steel doesn't have much strength. Or why did I just say steel? Sorry guys, I'm tired. This is certainly not steel. Okay. I need to go through all my parts supply and find the correct bracket for this alternator. I think I've got I know I've got some non-air or factory air car brackets that would put this where it's supposed to go. Need to dig through my collection to find them. Feel like might have a little play in the water pump. Not much. Okay, we'll fire that puppy up a little bit and see if that did it. Just got to hook the battery back up and we're good to go. So let's talk about this car. We got to back up to my, I believe it was the end of my sophomore year in high school. Maybe it's junior, doesn't matter. Anyways, me and Dad had not quite been seeing eye to eye on a lot of things, which is pretty common for young guys. And summer vacation started and he was not about to let me stay at the house by myself and do whatever I wanted to do. I had a part-time job at the time, but clearly he had some trust issues, which more than likely were well-deserved, if you know what I mean. I did have a girlfriend at the time, and he didn't want to be a grandpa at the time. So, I'd also gotten in trouble for a few things, so he decided to punish me one day. Well, not one day, it was all week. Mom was working, doing whatever, I don't remember, but so I had to go with him on his salesman job. So, I was very unhappy about that. No teenager wants to ride around with her dad in his Cavalier and go do food sales all day long. So I was in a crappy mood, and I was trying really hard to prove it. You know, all had that crap face, being rude and short and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, we're cruising down the highway, and at the time I was into trucks more. I already had my gray 73 F100, which did not run, I don't believe, at the time. It spent a lot of time not running back then. And we're going out to one of his sales calls, and we passed this place on the side of the road called Rocket Motors. And this little gem was sitting on the side of the lot there, up on a little grassy hill, with a for sale sign in it. And I don't know why, but that thing just, I was zeroed in on it. It was like, whew. Like, Dad, we gotta go look at it. So, him being the sweetheart that he was, on the way back through, we went and looked at it. I had no idea what it was. I'd never seen one. I didn't know anything about Buicks. I really didn't know anything about cars in general, as far as, you know, what the difference between a GTO or a Le Mans or Chevelle or whatever. I mean, I was 16 years old at the time. Anyways, we go back through and look at it. And this car had a underdash aftermarket AC unit put into it, which did not work. Had a new paint job, which I already mentioned. Had a brand new set of Kragers. And if ever there was a car that was truly kind of grandma fresh, this was it. The mileage back then was like, I think it was 70, around 70,000 miles. I don't remember. But this grandma had it, and she had given it or sold it to the grandson, which was about my age at the time, say 17-ish, 18 maybe. And he'd put the Kragers on it and drove it all over the place, had fun with it. Anyways, the car ran and drove great. We test drove it. They were only asking $3 grand for it. So imagine that in today's world, a running, driving 68 A body of any kind, new paint, new wheels, tires, that ran good for $3 grand. I mean, how far we've come in 20 years. Now you can't buy a complete rusted out project car for $3 grand. Anyways, so then I switched from, being in the angry pants mode to doing everything in my power to talk mom and dad into letting me buy this car. And now when we saw it, it was on Monday. My dad, he didn't know much about cars either, so he asked a bunch of his buddies what they thought it was worth, because he didn't know if it was worth $3 grand or not. I bugged him and I bugged him and I bugged him and I bugged him. So they agreed to let me borrow the $3 grand. I might have paid a couple $100 down, whatever I had at the time. So that Wednesday, a day and a half later, we drive back out, and I was beside myself, worried that it wasn't going to be there. So we pull up, walk up, it's still there. We went straight to the office, sit down, hand the guy the money, and no sooner than we get the title signed over that these two guys walk in with a handful of cash, wanting to buy this car. So I literally wound up with this car not with 5 minutes to spare. And it's funny because it pretty much from that point forward changed the trajectory of my life, or set it in motion up to this point. All surrounded this car. I mean, I had tinkered with my old Ford pickup, but this is really what cut my teeth on working on cars. And the reason why, we'll get to that. So we paid for it. I didn't have a license yet, so we couldn't drive it home. And they said they'd pull it down, clean it, get all the for sale signs off of it and everything, and pull the plates off. So we come back like the next day. Mom was with us, and she was not particularly feeling a V8 powered car, because she knew how I was, how most teenagers are. So we fired this thing up. It had a set of duals put on it as well. I wasted no time in showing her how good it sounded, at full throttle. She says, "Oh God, what have we done?" It's like, "Don't worry, Mom, I'm a good driver, I'm responsible." But I'll never forget the feeling after she got out and I drove home by myself, blasting down the highway, and this thing is just an unmistakable, unforgettable high of my life, which I still get sometimes when I jump in this car and take off. Well, fast forward about 6 months, I drove this thing hard. I burnt down more tires than I could shake a stick at. Twice I popped the right rear tire. It was peg leg rear. I popped that right rear tire twice doing burnouts. It was my favorite thing in the world to do. So, in fact, one time I pulled up this four-way light, it was nighttime, and this pickup truck sitting to the left of me there, like, light him up. So naturally I obliged, and I brake stomped that thing, and it was just smoking it out, about like the Vice Grip garage burnouts there. Anyways, right about the time where my car and the truck next to me was completely obscured with smoke, I look across the intersection. Sitting directly across from me is a Tulsa police officer. I never lifted so fast, but he'd been watching the whole thing, and he just looked over and he went like this, and that was it. He drove on, didn't give me a ticket. So, but anyways, no, there are things about the car that annoy me that I would like to finish, but I've got sentimental attachment to it, and that's a big thing for me for some reason. Like, for example, this dash pad, it's been recovered. I bought it out of a parts car. I peeled the vinyl off, and I took it to a buddy of mine. Old man Asher was his last name, and he recovered it. He put the carpet in for me. He sewed this carpet on the lower half of the door panels. He was a really good dude, and he passed away from cancer probably 10 years later. So, I mean, he was one of those guys that was, you know, instrumental in offering sound advice. He was also a car guy, owned his own little upholstery shop. He was a good guy, so I can't bring myself, even though it needs it, you know, needs some of the vinyl glued back on, and it's not super pretty. I just can't bring myself to tear it out and redo it, you know. I jump in here and every time I look at it, I just know, I think about him, so I don't know. I think it's fine. Maybe I could glue it back a little, put the steamer on it or something, and get the vinyl to glue back a little better. But this car is just one of those that, you know, I'll probably be buried in. And it's fun to drive, which here shortly we'll take it out and go for a spin to the parts store and see how she does. It's just an AM radio. I took all the AC stuff off. Like I said, it's got the AC dash, but it's a factory non-AC car, so it's just got a heater. It's got the non-AC heat controls. I've actually got an aftermarket AC setup on the shelf across the room there I could put in it, but I've got it for sale. Hopefully I can sell it and make some money back. Me and this car have been around the block a few times, so. Oh, and the funny story I was going to tell you about the cigarette burn in the back. I worked with this guy I was probably 25 years old, and somehow or another we got to talking about cars, and I showed him a picture of this, and it sounded familiar to him, so we was going back and forth. He was describing it. It's like, yeah, I think that's it. He said, tell me, is there a cigarette hole burned in the back seat? I was like, yep, that's the one. So he proceeded to tell me about him and about 18 of his buddies driving around in this, and somebody dropped a cigarette in the back seat and burnt that hole in the cover, and a couple of little bitty ones up here. So if this car could talk, it'd be a pretty good conversation. So anyways, let's get on to driving this thing. I got on her hard. I had my pop in this hand and I was steering with the hand I'm holding the camera with. And She got all out of shape. I didn't lift. I kept my foot in it right up till I run up a telephone pole. Right dead center in the middle of the hood. Right down that spear. I was going 50, 55 miles an hour. And long story short, it didn't end well. I didn't have my seatbelt. My face went up here and hit the windshield and then skidded down there and bit a big chunk out of the dash. So, got about 40 stitches in my forehead. And then I was a 17-year-old with a car that I owed $3 grand on, and everybody telling me I should part it out. I'll show you some pictures of it. Didn't have the heart to, so I tore into rebuilding the car, which I'd never done before. Got her put together in about a year and a half, and here we are. I told everybody that I crashed the car because the accelerator pedal stuck. Truth of the matter is it stuck because I had my foot holding it down, but I didn't tell people that until years later. But she's been a real good car for a long time, and I've got a lot of enjoyment out of it.